Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl Ilove, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. I have a fantastic guest with me today, and she's just delightful to talk to. She and I actually have a lot in common. She's not a ninja, but I think she kind of is. She's just hiding that aspect. But she is a retired medical professional, a retired nurse. She is a prolific author, and she's also a dancer. So I would like to welcome Helen Starbuck.
Thank you for inviting me. This should be fun.
Well, it should be. We'll see what happens. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is your books, because you have a series that you started, and I have read two of them. It's a mystery series, the Annie Collins Mysteries.
Yes.
And it's based on the main character is actually a nurse.
Yes. Well, she's an operating room nurse, which is what I used to do. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, write what you know. Mm-hmm. And actually the inspiration for the first book came from helping care for a young woman when I was working in the main OR at Children's.
Oh.
It's not about that patient, but her clinical presentation just baffled everybody. It took them a really long time to figure out what was wrong with her because the cause for it was so unlikely. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, that would make a really good story. So again, it's not about that patient. It's just about her clinical presentation, and so.
Well, I'm always sorry sometimes that my listeners can't see my facial expressions, because you just see my face. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I mean, it's so fascinating and interesting because I've had that same experience. Over the course of my careers. Is like, my goodness, I could really make a story out of this. Yeah. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, my imagination only goes so far. And to be able to sit down and create a cast of characters like you did, how did you do that?
For me, it's kind of a weird process. Characters just seem to come sort of full blown to me. And I've had friends tell me that Annie is me. Mm-hmm. Now, I would say that there are a lot of similarities. She's a lot more bullheaded and a lot more brave than I am. Mm-hmm. There are points in the story where I'd have just gone, oh, what the hell, I'm out of this,
And well, it did get pretty scary and very dangerous.
Yeah, but she just keeps, plugging along. So we're different in that way. Otherwise, there's a lot of similarities in terms of what she does and how she interacts with people. And then it's funny for me because characters come to me like Angel, the male lead. I initially thought he'd just be he'd be her neighbor. They'd be buds, but it would never go anywhere. And then they both kind of said, yeah, no, that's not what we want to do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they come to me, and I've had people say, well, how do you come up with names? And it's funny, they kind of name themselves. There are times when I have to go back and say, yeah, I don't really like that name. I don't think it works for this person. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't happen very often.
Isn't it funny how things just pop into your head? Or it's like the characters take a life of their own. And I've heard this from other fiction writers. Yeah. And I do have to tell you, though, when I was reading the books, I haven't gotten your third one yet, but when I was reading them, there were a lot of times that I saw you.
Yeah.
In Annie. Yeah. And, especially the one time when she went shopping, and that really...
Well, actually, the young woman who is the salesperson I modeled after my daughter, because at the time she was working at the Michael Kors outlet store out at Colorado Mills, and she's a real fashionista, Mm-hmm. And I said to her one time when I was looking for a dress for, I think it was a wedding, she said, well, let's go down to Cherry Creek and we'll look at St. John. I said, oh, I never go into the stores. They're really mean to me. And she goes, Mother, she said, you just got to go in with an attitude. So the young woman in that situation is sort of my daughter.
Oh, that's so funny. Are there any other characters that are based on real people?
I would say Annie's two nurse friends are kind of composites of nurses that
I
I've
kind of
worked with.
figured that because the way you would describe their relationship,
Yeah.
because I figured that was based on real people, because
Yeah.
unless you have been in the medical profession, in the OR,
Yeah.
and experienced that type of constant pressure
Yeah.
that we're under. Well, I never worked in the OR, but I worked critical care. I
Yeah.
worked the emergency room. We were the
It's all the
resuscitation
same-
team.
yeah.
It's the same amount
Yeah.
of stress, and you see a side of humanity that can really bring a lot of people down in the profession, and people do burn out, or they become what's the word, jaded, or really
Well,
hard.
you can get very skewed ideas of the world around you. When I worked for a number of years at Children's, and of course we saw children with, all types of rare and unusual and then just misfortunate situations, and you begin to think that there are no normal children in the world. And the reality is, of course, most children are born, they're perfectly fine, and this group we saw was a small minority, but you see them every single day, and
Yeah.
you begin to think, well, this is... I used to say to friends of mine who got pregnant while they worked there, I don't know how you can do it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just don't. The anxiety would just overwhelm me.
Yeah, well, I did work in a children's hospital in Arkansas. I lived in Arkansas, believe it or not, for, what was it, 19 months, 1 day, and 15 hours. It was after we were married. And, Arkansas wasn't the most fun place for me. It's a beautiful state and a beautiful
Yeah.
place. But I did work at the children's hospital there, and it was really state of the art, and it was incredible. And it was really hard.
It was.
I mean, and you just really have the most incredible compassion for these poor kids, and especially for their parents. But the funny thing that I noticed was that the children are far more resilient than the parents are. I mean,
Yeah.
they get over things, and it's like they're on with their life. And
Yeah.
the poor parents, it takes them a whole lot longer to
Well, and
assimilate.
Yeah, and even under normal circumstances, a kid can go through a tonsillectomy, and they're up running around, they're eating food, they're doing fine within a week. And adults who have it, it's a 3 to 4 week process before they even feel halfway normal.
Right.
And I'm not sure whether that's mindset.
I don't know. I think it's just that kids are so resilient.
Yeah, they are.
And as we get more mature, we
More
have
or less.
to we have to focus on our resiliency. So one of the other things that I think is so fascinating about you is your dance career or your dance background. So when did you start dancing?
Actually, 2 years ago.
Really?
Well, I used to work full time for a nursing journal, and then I went part time for a while because I could work at home, and then I eventually quit altogether. And so when I was in that transitional stage and I was working 3 days a week, and I was working at home, I complained to a friend and I said, I got to figure a way to get out and be around people again, because I said that's the one thing I miss the most about being in the office, is seeing all these people and, chatting and whatnot.
The professional socialization.
Yeah. And she said, well, you need to find a group activity. She said, how about a hiking club? And I go, yeah, I'm not really a hiker. She goes, well, dancing. Have you thought about that? And I thought, well, that's a possibility. So I get on the computer and I'm Googling ballroom dancing, because as a kid I had tried ballet and I really wasn't very good at it. And there was an Arthur Murray studio in Boulder, which is close to me. And I called up, and the man I now know was the owner and a teacher. He answered the phone, and he was explaining very different things about it. And he wanted to know, did I have a dance background? I said no. Did I play an instrument? I said, well, I did as a kid. He said, do you sing? And I said, only in the car with the windows rolled up. And he said...
And he didn't hang up on you.
No, I said, why do I need to? And he said, the only reason I ask is that people that are involved in those activities know how to count. And they know tempo. And sometimes it makes it easier. But he said, you don't have to do that. So we talked, and I they had a introductory special, of course. That's kind of
Of
like
course.
giving you a little cocaine just to try it, and then
Just a
the
little
next
bit
day-
of crack here.
Yeah. So I said before we hung up, I said, "Well, now, is there like a dress code or anything?" He goes, "Yeah, it's formal." And I went, "Oh, okay." And then he starts to laugh, and he goes, "No, wear whatever you want." And so in that moment, it was like, okay, I like this guy.
He has a sense of humor.
I can relate to the sense of humor, and that was the end of it. I got up there, and for somebody who never thought I could dance, it's been wonderful because they are so supportive and so nice and so encouraging that I've just been surprised. When he first kind of brought me in and asked me all these questions, he wanted to know, what were my goals? And I said, well, mostly just to get out and meet people and, learn to dance. And he said, do you think you'd ever want to compete? And I go, no.
Oh.
Well, I've now been to 3 competitions.
I've seen the pictures, and they are amazing. And some of the videos, too.
Yeah.
I've even seen a few videos.
It's so much fun. I mean, I'm not anywhere near the skill level of some of the people go, but it's just so much fun, and I think it does help you get better at what you do. And of course, I have role models at the studio who are quite a bit more advanced than I am, that I'm just like, oh, I really want to dance like that one of these days.
And you probably will.
I think so. I mean, I've improved a lot.
So do you think it's helped your confidence?
I do. I think it's made me feel like I can do something that I didn't think I could do, and that while it might take me more repetition or more practice than some other people, because I have a couple of friends who have a dance background, and they seem to catch on a lot faster. But I can do it, and I feel good about it, and I'm having fun. And so for me, that's the whole key. I haven't met anybody, student or teacher, that I didn't like up there. And so I'm having a ball.
See, I told you were a ninja, because that is actually the ninja spirit of just, trying something new,
Yeah.
pushing yourself, focusing more on the journey,
Yeah.
and not the end result, and not looking at people who are better than you, because there's always going to be people
Well,
who
sure.
are, no matter what you do,
Sure.
always people you can look up to them and want to emulate them, and not to be envious and like, I can't do that. So it doesn't discourage you, it actually encourages you. And I think it's that lifelong learning too that really keeps us youthful, and that youthful spirit, and healthy and engaged, not only physically but mentally and emotionally as well.
I tell you, I was complaining to Isaac, my teacher, the other day, because every time I get something down, he throws something new at me.
Yeah, that's their job.
And it's like, stop! I just barely got this in my head. And he's like, but that's what we do. He said, you got to keep moving on. And I do think that it takes a lot of mental effort. Remembering patterns, remembering steps, get that body memory.
Have you ever seen that article? There was an article a few years ago. It was actually in the Denver Post about dance being the best exercise to prevent dementia.
I have seen those. And I've also seen ones that have shown that it helps Parkinson's patients.
Absolutely.
And in fact, there is a group within the Arthur Murray family of studios here in Colorado for Parkinson's patients.
Nice.
And at our, what they call showcase, which is, they have a showcase like once a year, the group does a group dance.
Nice.
And it's really nice. You look at them and you go, wow, if I were in their situation, I don't know whether I would be confident enough to do it. I mean, I am now because I've been doing the dancing, but so yeah, I think it's great. Keeps you limber, keeps you moving.
But that's also the human spirit, and the resilience of the human spirit. And if some people would just kind of like, I'm not going to do it, I can't, I've got Parkinson's, and others like, why not?
What do you got to lose?
Exactly. Yeah. And it actually does. There's something about music, and I don't know specifically how it works, but that it stimulates part of the brain, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, I've had a whole new world of music opened up to me that I probably would not have even known about. In fact, I usually do that. Like I did it last night. I heard this song they have a Spotify system, and they've got it all categorized by dances, and there was a song playing, and I said to Isaac. I said, what's that say? He goes, I don't know. Go over and look.
Uh-huh.
And so that's what I usually do. And then I go write it down because usually by the time I get home, I can't remember what it was. So that's been fun too,
Yeah.
you know.
Now, 20 years ago, would you imagine yourself where you're at right now, especially with the dance, with 3 multiple award-winning books? I don't know if has the third one, is it out yet?
The third one will be out in the fall.
Okay.
We're going through some birth pangs with the cover. So it'll get sorted out, but it'll probably be out in the fall, somewhere between September and probably October.
But the other two
are out.
But they've won multiple awards.
The first one won the National Indie Excellence Award for Mystery, and it also got a merit award from the Evvies. Now, the second one is entered, but the Evvies won't be decided for a while, I think until August.
Okay.
So we'll see. I also submitted the audiobook for the second one. They didn't really have an audiobook section when the first one went in, so we'll see what happens. You never know.
And so what you're talking about with the Evvies is the Colorado Independent Publishers Association. It is a group here in Colorado. Great organization for independent authors. So if anybody who's listening is interested in writing a book, publishing a book, it's a really great organization to contact and get connected with, so you can learn a lot more about the publishing industry.
I have really enjoyed it just because you meet all sorts of people, make all sorts of connections that have helped me. And so, I would recommend. I'm a big fan of joining organizations anyway, because of the people you meet and the advantages they give you. You know, I met Jerry Fabianic through SEPA.
I love him.
Oh, he's great. He's great.
Awesome.
And, you know, various and sundry other people.
And you really do have to communicate and stay in touch with other authors because, as you said, it is very isolating. And I actually told somebody yesterday, you know, I really understand how writers go crazy or lose their minds. But I think for my personal experience, that has been the greatest thing that I got out of writing and publishing a book was the incredible people that I've met along the way.
Yeah, it's a great group.
And, you know, everybody has so many other ideas, and just finding out what they write and what they write about and, you know, where they get their inspiration is just amazing.
And, listening to their struggles. Like I'm connected with a number of groups on Facebook, and it's encouraging to see that other people struggle with similar things or to learn about things that they're, you know, having issues with. And it just kind of creates a sense of community, and it's like, I can relate, you know.
And you're not the only one, so it's a little bit reassuring too.
Oh yeah, it's like I'm not insane yet,
not yet, but we're all works in progress.
Oh yeah.
So let's get back to the social media thing too, because as we were talking before, a little bit earlier before we started the recording, you know, you and I are about the same age.
Yeah.
We are the same generation, and we were talking about you were a pretty good typist because, of course, you know, that was your job in the medical public or the medical journal.
The nursing journal.
And I never learned how to type. And one of my sisters will always just give me a hard time and said, how did you ever graduate high school? And I'm like, well, I don't know how I got out of it because everybody had to take typing. But I had really pretty nails and I kept them pretty and painted, and they were going to make me cut my nails, and I wasn't going to do that.
I'm
not doing that. So I graduated and I never did learn how to type. And it wasn't a big problem.
Yeah.
Until I'm in graduate school.
I got to type.
And I got to type. So what I would have to do is do all of my my reports and my papers and stuff way in advance, and I paid a woman that worked with my husband to do all my typing. So the good news was all of my assignments were done way ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest technological issue. And so that was when I was in my late 30s.
Yeah.
But then come the advent of the computer and the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And that, to me, was pretty overwhelming.
Well, I would not have, if left to my own devices, I probably never would have learned how to use a computer. But I worked for a nursing journal, a specialty nursing journal for operating room nurses, and was for a long time the only nurse on a staff of journalists. So, you know, I was the one that said, yeah, no, you can't say it that way. If you say it, I know you think it's grammatically correct, but if you say it that way, it's wrong. Or trying to explain blood gases, or
that'd be a
or saying, okay, you got the picture of the x-ray switched because they're talking about this and that's where it is and they're calling it right, and it's anyway. So because of that job, I had to learn how use a computer. And I had to learn how to use email. I had to learn how to go online to check references. And I had to learn the electronic submission system, which about drove me crazy. Because then I had to try and explain it to authors who were having problems with it. It was like, oh man, this is making my brain explode.
Kind of like the blind leading the blind.
Well, it was. It really was. Fortunately, we had an editor on the staff who was a real computer geek.
Oh, good.
So poor Zach, every time something went wrong, it'd be, Zach, I can't get this to work. And he'd very patiently come over and go, well, what have you been doing? Okay, well, here, do this. There, And so I'm glad that I was forced to do that, because had I not had that job, I might know how to answer emails, but I wouldn't know any of this other stuff.
But that's another case in point, is that we all have our skills. We all have something that we're really, really good at. For example, just how you're talking to the authors or the the writers going, you might think that's correct, but it's not. The x-ray is backwards. This is what a blood gas is. This is how you say it. So, and the frustration in trying to explain it to them. And then, of course, with Zach, being very patient, but it's like, this is so easy. You know, and why doesn't everybody know this?
And it's like, because we all have our areas of expertise. And I still have people that I have to rely on, especially to get stuff up on Amazon and to do some of that other stuff. I just don't get it. So I pay people to do it, because they do it so much easier. I pay someone to do my website. My sister did it originally, but she's so busy that I would, text her and go, can we do this? And it'd be 3 weeks later before she could get to it. So at that point, I just said, nothing against you.
Yeah.
I love you. I'm so glad you did this, but I'm going to find somebody that does this as a business. So, and I do. And if I call her and say, okay, I want to move this here, I want to take this down, or it's like 2 hours later, she goes, it's done, check it out and let me know what you think. And it's like,
you need that.
You do.
When you run, a business of any sort, you have your own website, you really need that. I'm going to go back to a question I asked you before, and I'm not sure that we really answered it, and that doesn't matter. But 20 years ago, would you imagine yourself in this, spot? You're an award-winning author of 3 books.
Yeah.
You are a dancer. You're competing.
Yeah.
You're out meeting a tremendous amount of new, exciting people.
Yeah.
You are, you're not now, but you stepped so far out of your comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
And look at you thriving. What would you have said if I told you 20 years ago that this is where you would be in life and this is what would be happening?
I'd have said you were crazy. Writing at that point in time was a hobby, and then was part of my job for the nursing journal, but it was all professionally focused. And I joke that I've written since junior high, but in junior high it was about the Beatles. And so my writing was more for my entertainment. It never really went anywhere. And then, I got this new job at the nursing journal, which was pretty overwhelming. And then I got a husband, and then I got a daughter. And so the writing for entertainment just went on the shelf. Then when I moved in 2015, I was going through stuff, weeding stuff out and getting rid of it, because I was tired of hauling it from one place to another.
Right.
And I came across the first 4 chapters of the first book that I had written years ago. And I read them and I thought, wow, I still like this. And so that's when I thought, well, I've got time now. I'll just see where this goes. And so, I wouldn't have believed it, especially getting it published and the dancing. I would have said, nah, I'm not a dancer. I go to bars and try and dance, and it doesn't work out very well. And so it's amazing to me.
That's another really great take-home point, too, for our listeners, is to never really give up on your dreams. I mean, sometimes you have to put a project or a plan on the back burner for other things, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you can come back to it later. And if it's meant to be, you've obviously got an incredible amount of talent and skill.
Well, thank you.
So, but the dancing, that's a real big surprise.
It was a huge surprise. And I just can't say enough about how much fun it is. So, and it's inspiring. I have friends there that, one of whom had a bad accident, and it affected her legs, and she dances beautifully. And she says, The only reason I'm walking is because of the dancing.
And tell us what the doctor had said to her. I mean, she obviously, does she have a leg discrepancy or something, and she walks with a
Well, I
limp?
have two friends. One does have a leg discrepancy because of an car accident, and the other friend of mine has bad arthritis and
that's right.
and
Okay.
can't take the anti-inflammatories that really help. And that was the woman who her doctor said, well, there are operations we can do on your feet that will help, but he said, you won't dance again. And she said, well, then forget it.
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, the other friend that was in the accident, as I said, she tells people, well, I wouldn't be walking. I'd be wheelchair bound if it wasn't for the dancing.
Yeah.
So, and they dance beautifully.
Oh, that's amazing. That's just so great because there is such a healing power in dance, in martial arts, in any type of movement that really engages your body, your mind, and your spirit. And it just all works together. So I love to hear stuff like that because some people would have said, oh, yes, do the surgery, fix my feet.
Yeah.
And, what are you left with? Because there are always consequences of any decision that you make or any choice that you make.
Right.
So good for her. I mean, they could do a testimonial probably.
Well, they could.
For the studio.
It's they're an inspiration to me because it's, they're not terribly much older, but they're older than I am. And it's like, that's what I want to keep doing. You know?
And we don't have to stop.
No.
You have to just keep on going.
Yeah. And I was, it was kind of like, oh, well, I guess I must be doing better because I was in a class that was mixed with people who haven't been dancing as long. And this one woman, there aren't enough men in ballroom dancing.
Oh, there aren't enough men anywhere.
And that's one thing I want to say. If there are guys listening, get off your butts and go ballroom dance.
Oh, trust me, there are a lot of men that listen to the FemiNinja. I'm not sure if they'll admit it in public, but I know they're out there.
I always say there's no reason why a guy wouldn't like it. You get to hold a woman and dance with her. Because there are so few men, we're very grateful. And it's just fun. But anyway, I was in this class, and this woman said to me, she said, I just can't get this Cuban motion thing. And she said, I can't get my hips to work. And I said, well, it's not your hips. It's your knees. It's breaking your knee, and that drops your hip, and then you stand up straight, and you drop the other knee. And she goes, oh, I never thought of that.
So simple.
Yeah, and I was like,
didn't you feel proud of yourself?
I was like, oh, goodness, I finally helped somebody, Instead of going, I don't get it either. I mean,
but it's so great because when you do watch each other, you learn a lot. And especially when people are good, you're just admiring and you don't really know how much they've struggled or are even struggling in a dance or a performance because they learn how to hide it.
They make it look so easy. I remember I rode horses for quite a while. And my daughter's teacher in grade school asked the kids, because she rode as well, to name a sport. And so she named, horseback riding. The teacher said, oh, that's not a sport. You just should sit on the horse and let the horse move. And I said to her when she told me that, because she was really upset, I said, well, honey, be respectful. But the next time somebody says that, say, well, clearly you've never ridden a horse. I mean, if you watch dressage riders, it doesn't look like they're doing anything.
But they're working
But they are working
hard.
just as hard as the horse. So it's the same with dancing.
Yeah.
Or you're in martial arts.
Right.
The people who do it really well make it look so easy, and then you try it, and it's like, oh my God.
It's a lot harder than it looks.
It is.
Well, that's the one thing we would always say in martial arts. What's the difference between a white belt and a black belt? And the answer is the black belt covers their mistakes better.
Well, that's similar. My teacher Isaac always says, if you're going to make a mistake, do it proud.
Oh, absolutely.
Do it with flair, because chances are nobody's going to notice it but you.
Well, the funny thing is, even in ballet class, because of course I still take ballet class 3 or 4 days a week, and I am notorious for just kind of blanking out right in either the middle of a combination or at the very beginning, right before the music starts. It's like, oh my God, how does it start?
I can't remember.
They'll say it goes like this. It's like, okay, then I'm fine. Yeah. But, we can have a whole room of dancers, and we're doing this, long combination, and I'll screw up, but I just keep on going, and the music ends, and everybody looks at me, and I said, I was right. They were wrong.
Yeah.
But, you could make it look like
Make
that.
it look good. Yeah.
Confidence.
Yeah, do it with confidence. That's Isaac. He's so funny.
So last thing I really want to touch on, because this was kind of funny too. We were both of us kind of patting ourselves on the back and each other for how far we've come with technology. Because I have to tell you, I still miss the rotary phone. I mean, things were so much easier back then.
They seem to be. That's
Didn't
for sure.
they? Yeah, doing a text was standing on your front porch and yelling to your friend down the
Exactly.
street,
Exactly.
But so we both learned computers. You learned much faster than I did.
Forced to.
Well, you were forced to. I got out of physical therapy, traditional PT, just as everybody was going to computers, so I
Yes.
managed to dodge that bullet. But that left me trying to figure things out on my own.
Yeah.
And 8 years ago, the only thing I could do on a computer was send and receive email, and I wasn't very good at that.
Yeah.
So now look at how far I've come.
Oh, yeah.
But we were also talking about not only just, okay, we finally got comfortable with computers, and
Yeah.
then the next hurdle was social
Oh,
media.
God, yes. I can remember 5 years ago telling a friend of mine, don't invite me to things on Facebook because I never go on Facebook. If there's something you want me to come to, call me. And now, I mean, I'm on Facebook all
the time. And Instagram. I see your posts all the
Yep.
time. It's just so funny because I was so reluctant. Somebody actually had set up a Facebook account for me, and I was furious with them. And for years, it was like 2 or 3 years, I didn't even do anything. And it's like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to now. I got to figure this stuff out. So
That's true.
it's really kind of funny. So you people out there who are listening, who are millennials and Gen Xers, go ahead and laugh at us. It's okay. We don't mind. We have our skills.
And my daughter's favorite response is, yes, mother, there is a button to do that. And then she'll take a screenshot and text it to me. Here's the button. And it's like, okay, thank you.
Well, see, I don't have any kids. And, I was doing something one time, and I think I was learning how to even download the software for this podcast. And we were told, go, if you don't know how to do it, just go ask a teenager. And I'm sitting
That's
there going,
true.
my closest teenager is 1,500 miles away.
Oh, well, that makes it hard.
Yeah, it was really hard. So I had to hire a millennial, and it worked out okay.
But the other thing is Google.
Yeah.
I mean, you can type
That's
in,
true.
how do I take a screenshot? And boof, there are the instructions.
Huh.
I mean, you can find anything. In fact, in my first book, I was trying to figure out how a lay person would know to insert a nasogastric tube.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh, what the hell? So I Googled,
Uh-huh.
how do you insert an NG tube? And videos, popped up.
Jeez.
And then I got to playing, and there are videos about how to start an IV. There are videos about how to set up a patient-controlled anesthesia machine. And like one of my characters says, I kind of think you could be a nurse just watching YouTube.
Yeah, probably.
And, you wouldn't have a theory behind it, but
Yeah.
you'd know how to do something.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's the great Google, and I don't know what we did without it.
Well, so if our listeners are interested in learning about it and GTube and all kind of fun, fantastic little tidbits, you can also go on YouTube and look for that.
You have to watch your browser history, though.
Ah.
My sister asked me something. I was trying to think about, well, you're a nurse, couldn't you do that? And I said, no, because I think it was getting medications for a friend of hers father who was terminal.
Oh.
I said, no, I'm not going there
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But all the police would have to do is look at my browser history. They'd cuff me and they'd take me, they'd throw me in jail. I said, so no, aside from all the ethical issues, no.
Yeah. Oh, that's really funny. So aside from all of that, you would get into a whole lot of trouble. We'd
You
probably
would.
never see you again, but don't you worry. All of your author friends would do what we could for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'd bail you out and all that stuff. So tell us now how people can find you, find your books and your website. And so just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the books are on Amazon. You can find them on Amazon either using my name, Helen Starbuck, or if you know the titles, you can search for that.
Your name is real easy to remember.
Well, it is. It's just like the coffee, but it's not plural. And they stole our name, by the way.
Yeah, they
anyway, my website is helenstarbuck.com.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook under Helen Starbuck. Let me think, what else?
Instagram. I know you're on Instagram.
Yeah. I do have a YouTube channel, again, Helen Starbuck. but that's really new to me, and so there's not a lot on it just yet. But I am working with someone who is kind of helping me with that.
Good for you.
And the books are also at the Tattered Cover, all the locations.
Good. Okay,
yeah.
great. Good to know.
And so it doesn't matter to me where you buy them, but it would be lovely if people who read them would provide a review, an honest review. I'm not asking you to suck up, but
because reviews do matter.
They do matter
in sales.
You know, on Amazon they matter, and on Goodreads they generate a lot of people who go, oh, well, I might go look at that book.
Yeah,
so,
and the books are just delightful.
Thank you.
They're really I loved them. You know, both of them, and I can't wait to read the third one.
Well, I have people going, can't you write faster? And it's like, dude, this is not about writing faster. I have to have an editor, and that's a back and forth, several month long process. And then all these other things, it's not just me.
So now you know how Diana Gabaldon feels. Her.
But 5 years, that's how long it's taken her, and she still hasn't gotten out her last book. And
well, why don't you give her a call and say, hey.
Well, a lot of people have done that on Facebook and Twitter.
Oh, that's funny.
And I think, and I can't blame her, because God knows I'd be too. You know, they took her books to Stars. And I think she's a consultant, obviously, but she's very caught up, I think, in that whole
that project,
knowing the actors, and that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun, and I'm sure it's pretty lucrative too.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. So
So before we sign off, is there anything in particular you would like to leave, any pearl of wisdom or anything any message that you would like to leave with our listeners, or maybe they're considering writing a book or taking ballroom dancing, and you can say, oh, for heaven's sake, save yourself.
Well, as far as the ballroom dancing, I would highly recommend the Arthur Murray Studios. They've got one in Boulder, one in Lakewood, one down by Hampton and I-25, and actually one in Castle Rock. So
that's for our local listeners.
Yes.
And they're all over the country.
Well, actually, they are all over the country. So I just find their method of teaching and their teachers to be really wonderful. And then as far as writing, sit down and write whatever it is you want to write. And then if you really want to take it further, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I didn't use an editor, I don't need it, or I'm going to self-publish. And it's like, you really do need an editor. And if it's your first book, you need a developmental editor, because you've probably never done this before, and your stories are so close to you that you can't see the holes. I mean, there were several things about the first book where she'd come back and she'd go, I'm not sure where you were heading with that, but we didn't get there. So talk to me about this. And she's been gold for me.
Yeah, I know my editor was wonderful. I can't wait to work with her again on my next book.
So that's what I would tell people. If you get to the point where you want to publish, get an editor. Don't skimp on it. Find somebody that knows your genre and they like to work in that area of stories, and then listen to them.
And be prepared to pay for them. So don't go cheap.
No, don't go cheap.
You won't be
get
happy.
what you pay for.
Right.
In that situation, for sure.
Okay. Well, Helen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
I
you.
sincerely appreciate it. I've learned even more about you, so that's always good. And thank you to my listeners. Thanks for tuning in. And just remember to step out of your comfort zone. Try something new. Don't be afraid to just put yourself out there. Learn a few new things. If we can learn social media, you can do anything that you put your mind to. And that is the way of the FemiNinja. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.